With the recent release of Title Update 2 for Monster Hunter Wilds, a lot of fans have been optimistic about the future of the game, with the return of fan favorites such as Lagiacrus and Cerebrios, and the introduction of new weapons and armors. People are really excited, and also with new weapon changes and balances. Capcom has kind of promised a new outlook for the game, but has the game really changed, and has it really become better? And is the game saved? I first want to start out that Monster Hunter Wilds isn't a bad video game, it's a bad Monster Hunter video game. In comparison to older titles and previous titles, the game lacks the comparable content for the price in which it's offered. Right now, you could probably emulate a older gen game, or if you own it on, an older system, you could play it, have way more content for a lower price compared to what is offered in Monster Hunter Wilds at this moment. Even Monster Hunter World, again, when released in base, had more content in comparison to Monster Hunter Wilds. Again, this has caused people, for instance, to play World as opposed to Wilds. The issue with this game is a lot more than performance issues. The game has more deeper issues that Steam reviews have kind of hidden, again, due to the terrible performance, which is unacceptable from a game such as this. The game can be good if Capcom really focus on core Monster Hunter elements and making the game worth previous games were in comparison to content and also the price you're being charged with as well. I do want to preface that I've started my Monster Hunter journey with Monster Hunter World in 2018. I played on the Xbox One, but I had heard of Monster Hunter before. I had friends in middle school who were playing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate during lunch. I thought it was a pretty cool game. I did not have a 3DS at the time, so I was unable to play, but I followed the game around that time. Regardless, I have played the older games. I've played Monster Hunter 3U, 4U, I've played Generation Ultimate. I've also played Sunbreak and Rise. But regardless, I just want to preface that because there is a lot of discontention and divide in the community right now between those who played the older games and played the newer games. Although I think Wild is kind of very different from even older games. It's very different from even Sun or Rise or Sunbreak. Again, Monster Hunter World, people like to say that it really did change the fundamental aspects of Monster Hunter. Although I could argue that it more refined them, similar to how 4U refined the elements from 3U. World was the first step in the new direction, while I think Generations Ultimate actually was the refinement of instance mechanics in 4U. I do prefer 4U over Generations Ultimate because the Charge Blade in 4U is way better than Generations Ultimate, but that's besides the point. Gameplay loop of Monster Hunter games is typically of preparation, again, gathering materials, doing these quests, delivery quests, delivering eggs, gathering mushrooms, gathering mining materials. Then you hunt the monster. Again, there's the aspect of looking for the monster, memorizing its movements, tracking, paintballing, and then slaying the monster or capturing it, depending on the quest. And then lastly, there is the reward aspect of getting the drops, or not getting anything drops, going back, crafting material, crafting armor, crafting weapons, upgrading armor, and upgrading weapons to then fight tougher and tougher monsters. And again, you have that same type of loop of preparation, slaying, and the reward system. The issue in Wilds is that this reward and this gameplay loop is fundamentally broken due to certain changes that Capcom made in this game. For instance, in older games, the preparation, you did a lot of gathering quests, which people did find annoying. And I actually initially found it annoying when I started playing older games like 3U. But I realized that these quests really help the player learn about the environment, the map in which they're going to be hunting monsters, because with these gathering quests, you have to learn where resources are found, where to get whetstones, where to get, honey, blue mushrooms, do the other quests, where to find their resources. So you're focusing a lot of the early game on gathering, and then when you move on to the mid to late game, you can really focus more on fighting the monster on slaying because you already prepared and you have enough equipment and materials needed, so you're not running out of potions, running out of whetstones, or whatnot with these harder monsters in the later parts of the game. Wilds really destroys this because of one thing, the secret. The secret negates any necessity to understand the map and understand where things are located. Furthermore, you do have a farm in this game. You had farms in the previous game, but this farm is kind of busted because in previous games, you would have to wait over a period of quests. Like I do a couple quests, like 4 or 5 quests, and have some materials. In Wilds, you have the option to skip time, and the materials gathered by other villages is not based off of, a quest duration, because there's not really a good way to schedule a quest, select the quest, and move on in Wilds. Because they went with an open world approach, you can literally just time skip a bunch of times, because the time skip, it doesn't really cost a lot of the research points or whatever they're called in Wilds. I don't know the name, but you can get those points really quickly from just farming some trash monsters. You get those points and spend those points skipping, and then get a bunch of resources. So then we move on to hunting and slaying. Monsters in this game are very easy. This isn't trying to be like, oh, I have skill. I do have skill from this game, but the issue is these monsters with suboptimal builds can be killed with roughly like 7 to 15 minutes. I think the only monster that probably takes me longer than 15, and it's like maybe 20 to 25, is Zoshia. But that's because I tried soloing it. And truthfully, again, my build is pretty suboptimal. The builds I have are suboptimal. Besides the point, there's no real purpose in farming certain monsters because they're not challenging and the rewards kind of suck. Then there's no need to engage with this loop because the loop is broken, because there's no preparation, because monsters aren't challenging, and monsters aren't challenging, but they'll give a bunch of rewards. However, there's no reason to prepare because the monster you face next isn't difficult. And so I can slay the monster again in 7 to 15 minutes, which is actually nothing. And then you get the rewards. And you get guaranteed rewards due to the new investigation system, which I don't know why they changed it, because you basically can circumvent this by just sitting and waiting, using those research points, skipping time until an 8-star monster with the gems you want, whatever monster you want, spawns in so you can get the materials, get the gems, and move on and never play the game again. There is no replayability with this game. You can generally fight fun monsters, but there's no real point in playing the game because there's nothing to challenge you and to engage you in the core gameplay loop. The core gameplay loop is essentially go to destination from point A to B, slay cool monster with cool spectacle, kill the monster, get the rewards, and have a cool looking armor set. Again, that's fine for a video game, I guess, but for a Monster Hunter video game, that really is so different from the core elements that we're used to. Again, I want to go back to World and talk about that because people do say World changed those elements. The core gameplay to World was still so similar to older games. Again, I've only played 3U and 4U. I can't speak for Freedom Unite, Freedom Unite 2, the Portal games, whatever. I'm probably missing some that are like on the PS2 or like PS2 or PSP. I can't remember what they're called. I never played those games, but looking from 3U and 4U, the gameplay changes are pretty similar to World. And there's more quality of life, and that's eliminate friction. But you still have that core gameplay of preparation, slaying, and getting rewards that aren't giving you every single thing and showering you. World does have issues. Again, the RNG is stupid. The clutch claw is stupid. But besides that, it's a pretty fundamental game. Again, Wilds isn't bad because it's not World. It's a bad Monster Hunter game because it abandons the established mechanics of the game, of the series, that fans kind of recognize. The content feels less compared to older games. And the reason the content does feel less is because of the story, fundamentally. The story is awful. I'm not going to talk about the story because it's generally awful. It's just pretentious and it sits on itself. The character sucks. Nada sucks. Eric is gay. The characters suck. And the characters suck. I'm not going to talk about it furthermore. Anyway. The content actually is quite substantial. As I mentioned, World and Wilds roughly have the same amount of monsters on release, base, no title updates. They have the same amount of monsters, roughly. The problem is a lot of the monsters are put into the story, and the story is really, it's really railroady. You're fundamentally stuck on the story. You don't really have time to go hunt and explore because you're not authorized to kill monsters in that point in the story. Again, it's really railroady. If they just let you, again, like previous games, just have key quests, urgent quests, where you're hunting, you're exploring, and then you have an urgent quest, you need to go do it, but then you go back to the hunting in the gameplay loop, it'll be fine. But even still, I think the reason they did this is because they kind of knew that the monster difficulty was so low that you really wouldn't be able to engage with the core aspect because there's no real reason to grind, and there's no real reason to improve and upgrade your equipment because there's no monster that has a difficulty spike. Previous Monster Hunter game, there's some wall in low rank to show if the player has learned the game. In World, that wall is Anjanath because it does a lot of damage, and you have to know your weapon and know truly how to fight in this game. If you go to 4 Ultimate, the wall in 4 Ultimate is probably Gormagala. It's probably the first repel quest in Gormagala because Gormagala hits extremely hard and you're stuck on a very small ship and you have to like do this stupid stuff like aiming the cannons and trying to shoot it out of the sky. And again, it's a very small space, but there's no real point in trying to challenge yourself because there's no real wall. So if they did remove these railroading sections, the player would probably finish way faster because it seems like they're introduced to pad out playing time. Again, I don't understand why. You could just decrease drop rates, increase the health bar, increase the health, and just make them do more damage. Have a modifier or whatever. Have like a random monster, like have like the Black Flame do more damage or something. Because it seems like the Black Flame should be the wall, but it's not. So you can have something do more damage to have the player really think about, oh, I should probably upgrade my armor. I should make a better weapon. Let's do this to overcome this challenge. There's no point in overcoming the challenge. And again, going back to the content, due to the railroading story, due to the fact that you don't have to overcome any challenge, you can fly by. Although it does take you roughly 14 hours to beat the story. You do it in a way where most of the monsters you see in low rank, it's 80 to 90% of the monsters in the game available. I don't know why they did that. Don't know why you simply just didn't have it where low rank is a low rank system. You don't fight the apexes in low rank. You fight like a couple of the higher end ones. Have like Rathalos or Rathian be at the end of low rank, excuse me. And then you have low rank Zoshia. You do the split, and then you have the higher monsters like Jindahad, the Black Flame, Raydao, like Raydao, Ufduna, Gormagala, Guardian Archiveld, Seregios, Legiacris, and whatever's left. Because that would actually have more balance, or even Yonkaku. I forgot about Yonkaku and Blanganga. Have that more dedicated balance because again, with the way this game is structured, the content feels really, really small because you basically fight 80 to 90% of the monsters in the first 14 hours of the game. And after that, you're fighting like 2 monsters, which is again, and this is before the title updates. This is Guardian Archiveld and Gormagala. Those are the 2 monsters you're fighting. Now it's more diversified because you have high rank Soshia, you have the Legiacris, Seregios, you have Mitsune, you have the A-Star Tempered monsters, so it's more diversified. But before, it was feeling weak. Again, it's really sad to see this game be like this because it could be so good. It's just that they make really dumb decisions. Capcom is greedy, and they are a terrible company, which I pray people hopefully realize and wake up. They're very greedy. The Monster Hunter devs are also responsible for implementing some of these changes that killed, again, that core gameplay mechanic. If some things are just tuned back and not completely removed, you would have a very, very good Monster Hunter game that was challenging, that's rewarding, that the player is incentivized to play and has a lot of replayability. I'm not saying you have to play 100 hours, 1,000 hours into a Monster Hunter game. You can play it for however long you want to. It's just there's no reason for us to have less content as a consumer paying a higher price compared to previous games where as a consumer I played a price and had excess of content. I had secret quests. I had items to chase. Like, for instance, in Monster Hunter World, again, the comparison is roughly fair. There were HR unlocks. At certain HRs in Monster Hunter World, you would unlock special quests that would challenge you and give interesting rewards. In Monster Hunter Wilds, you do not have that. The only quest that unlocked is like HR 40, and this is Guardian Arkfeld, I believe. I don't remember when he comes out. It just shows the lack of replayability, and it shows how this game was rushed and it should have been delayed. And unfortunately, it really messed up and tarnished the reputation of Monster Hunter. If they would have delayed this game, maybe I would say maybe 6 months to a year to really flesh out these systems, you could have had a well received game, especially with the PC performances that are plaguing a lot of PC players. It is unexcusable, especially paying $70 for a video game. And they're still having those issues today. And I've seen certain people trying to cope and say that the PC issues are fixed, which I feel is really disingenuous. The PC issues suck, and they still are terrible. You pay $70 for a video game, it should work, but that's besides the point. But that's really it. I hope this game gets better. I hope it really implements and goes more down to the deep core gameplay mechanics. However, I don't think it will be because this game actually does have a lot of positive reception. A lot of the Steam reviews are more focused on PC performance. There's a couple Steam reviews that do mention the similar things I mentioned about gameplay, about mechanics, about lack of incentive, but the most of the reviews are negative reviews on Steam are the performance issues. If they fix performance, then I think people will play this game a lot more. But maybe they come to the same conclusion I did when playing. I played less than 60 hours. I'm already done. Like I don't really care that much to play this game. It's less than 60 hours. So yeah, if they really don't address these issues, I probably won't come back and play the G rank or Master Rank expansion. Again, you can add whatever monsters you want. You can add Shogar and Magal. You can add Dawn or Cosmagios or whatever. You can add whatever you want to. You could add, you could literally add Duramboros into back into this game, or like Deviants or whatever. I don't care, and I still probably wouldn't play it if the core gameplay mechanics are still lacking because there's no reason for me to play, especially given how easy it is to kill monsters. I do think though that the Master Rank or G Rank will probably be difficult due to the fact of Zoshia actually being challenging and some of the other tempers being challenging. The A-star tempered monsters can be challenging, but that's probably due to the fact they hit harder. And but I'm not going to continue on digress. There's a lot more issues I could talk about. Regardless, thanks for watching this video. Leave a comment, leave some constructive criticism or feedback. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't care. It's the internet. It's whatever. Go live your life. You can talk trash. Go right ahead. Anyway, take care. Until the next one.